Gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The show starts in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
The electricity here in Columbia, well, has been buzzing loudly all weekend.
Passion of the crowd in Williams-Brice Stadium is second to none.
And the rave breaks out in Columbia.
It is good!
Gamecock fans, welcome home.
See how it goes, but we'll be ready to go.
It's time to root.
South Carolina!
It's gone! Touchdown! What a hit! He baked it in! Can you believe it? Gamecocks have won this game!
Here are your hosts, J.C. Sherber.
Oh, watch him celebrate now!
Phil Molinex.
My wife doesn't like hanging around losers.
And Jamie Bradford.
I'm going to tell him, you look like you joined Duck Dynasty.
All right, greetings and good morning. Welcome aboard and welcome home. Inside the Gamecocks, the show live from the Signorama Studios and built by the BarnDominiumCo.com, the Barndo Co., where you can build your dream home for as low as $160 per square foot in the Carolinas, in Georgia, or in Tennessee. Signorama, of course, is the preferred sign partner of the Gamecocks. Matt Vaughn runs a brilliant business in West Columbia, and they do it for anybody and everybody all over the great state of South Carolina. JC and Phil will be in just a few moments. Our first program of the day, JC and Morgan, is about to get wrapped up, and then they'll pop in. But luckily for all of you, I'm joined by Perry Orth for his weekly segment, Inside the Playbook, with Perry Orth, former quarterback at Carolina, and we're counting down the days, but only a couple of more weeks until finally they'll take the field in Charlotte against that team from the north with a Carolina in it as well. But good to have you. And you know what these days are like, Perry, when you get into this. These are literally the dog days of summer for a college football player, right? You're stuck. You're almost stuck in neutral. Like, good God, we're halfway through it. Let's just get there.
Coach White said it best. I think I've said on the show, he works out at the gym that I work out at. Just gotten to know him. He's an awesome guy, Coach Clayton White. He said it best. I think I saw him was the latter part of last week, and I said, "How's camp going, brother?" And he was like, "Oh, it's good." And I think somebody asked, like in the background, like, "What day of the week is it?" And he said, "Nope, there's not a day of the week during this time of the year. It's just day. It's not Monday. It's not Tuesday. It's just day. Day 15, right?" So I think that perfectly exemplifies as Groundhog Day. You wake up, you practice, you meet, you go through what you got to do, and you put one foot in front of the other and keep hopefully stacking great days. The good and the bad thing about playing, having a big game like this to open the season is you take camp more seriously. But at the same time, it's kind of like, man, can we not just have kind of like a lesser game where we kind of get our feet wet and see what kind of team you're going to be? Because you never really know until you play a full real game against another team. In high school, we get the opportunity to scrimmage other teams that, we get to find out who can play, who can't play, moving around positions. And you only really find that out when you play another team. And it just, the ability of college coaches of how they're able to make decisions and put guys in the best case scenario and best position to succeed, plus the players having to get themselves mentally prepared. Even in the NFL, you get 4 preseason games, right, to evaluate and see what you got. So these are difficult and challenging times, but they're fun, and they're days that you'll never forget. And it's an opportunity to get closer with your teammates and friendships that will last you a lifetime. So lot to look forward to, though, with this bunch of Gamecocks, though.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. And there are some leaders that have kind of begun to emerge, Perry, and a few of those. Spencer Rattler has been one. We know that he's got the respect of his football team, but over the last week or so, reports are kind of coming out of there from staff members. Certainly media members are getting this from the staff that guys named Nick Gargiulo and Vershawn Lee, your projected starting center and your projected starting left guard, have kind of taken control of this offense. Probably throw Trey Jones's name in there as well.
Yeah.
A young man out of Abbeville, South Carolina, who just a couple of years ago was being utilized a little bit in a fullback type role that our buddy Pat Marco once played. But you've got the interior of the offensive line, and those guys have played a ton of football. And I know that they're trying to get the tackle positions kind of sorted out, but they are beginning to feel much better about that as well. But, Perry, when you've got an experienced group on the interior of the offensive line, what does that mean for Spencer Rattler and the offense?
Man, it means everything. I think we talked a little bit about it last week, was the command when you have an offensive line that's not only they're going to shore up blocks, right? They're not going to be perfect, but from a mental side, like, hey, if your protection calls slide right, typically with older, more experienced guys, 9.99999 times out of 10, they're going to slide right. Yeah, they might have that one mix up and miscue, but you feel more comfortable. You feel safer. I know as a quarterback, you feel that really anything can happen, right? When you have a bunch of sure-handed players that are going to give their best and are going to protect you for the most part and create running lanes for the running backs. Typically at this level, the skill positions are good enough to make the plays that need to. The offensive line, they get no love, but they are so important to the success of an offense. You can have skilled players all over the field, but if you can't give the quarterback time to make throws, it's impossible to move the football, right? If you don't give the running back running lanes to run through, you don't provide and you don't have the balance you need to be successful on offense. So, as much, attention that they don't get, they, in the film room and in real football, the coaches focus on that side of the football, and not on that side, but on that position group, probably more so than they do from a skill position, right? So having experienced, talented offensive line certainly helps, because at the end of the day in this league, you have to run the football and stop the run to win. And if you do that well, you're going to have a shot and be in every single game that you play in.
All right. So you mentioned running the football, and right now we talked about this last week as well, but that seems to be to carry on Joyner with a pretty large leg up on the starting role. They are expected to play 4 running backs. We'll probably see 4 running backs at some point in time in the North Carolina game, if I had to guess, coming up in a couple of weeks, Perry. But specifically here, we know that Juju and Decarrion Joyner can catch passes out of the backfield. Yeah. And so we call this Inside the Playbook. We're going to let you do that because I know that's what you do. You're an offensive coordinator at Cardinal Newman and former quarterback in the SEC. Describe that dynamic. Now you've got Dowell Loggins, and they utilize running backs out of the backfield to catch the football a lot in the NFL. So he's called a lot of plays over the years by making sure that the guys who were sure-handed tailbacks that were on his roster in the lineup could also be able to branch out and go get the football. So kind of describe, especially with what we know surrounds them, the tight end room, the wide receiver room, and you got a talented quarterback. Describe how that can change an offensive game plan and keep the defense on its toes.
Well, yeah, I think first and foremost, balance in anything in life is important, right? And it translates to the football field, right? Having balance in the run and the pass game is vital to the success of any team, right? You'll see high-powered offenses that are throwing for 400 yards a game that finish 7-5. Right. Mm-hmm. Well, why is that? There's a lot that goes into it, right? Just because you throw for a bajillion yards doesn't mean you're going to win football games, or vice versa. Running the football, just because you're really, really good at running the ball doesn't mean you're going to win the national title. Having balance and being able to do both, because you have to be able to run the ball consistently, but you also have to succeed. And ultimately in today's football, the quarterback is such a vital part that you're going to have to throw the football to win, and you sure as hell have to throw the football well to win the big game, right? The teams that win national championships, they're good up front on both sides of the ball. They can run and stop the run. ultimately the deciding factor on great teams is the trigger man. Are they making the throws when the teams are needing them to make the throws, right? You go down, watch the playoff game versus Ohio State and some of the throws Stetson Bennett had to make to win that football game, because if he doesn't make those throws, they lose, and Ohio State probably goes on to win the national title. Well, that same thing for South Carolina. If we can protect, and it starts up front, if we can protect Spencer, I mean, he has the ability and the experience, and with this scheme, to find the open receiver. And we have guys on the perimeter that can not only catch the football well, but they're going to make plays after the catch. And, running back, De'Kerrion Joyner is electric with the ball in his hand, whether he was in the shotgun, taking snaps at quarterback, running wildcat stuff, whether he was in the receiver, catching balls out in the slot, getting open, or now getting downhill. He's 225 pounds. He's able to run hard. He plays the game the right way. And we all know this by now. De'Kerrion's going to lay it all out on the line for South Carolina football. Like, the guy just bleeds garnet and black. And you combine all of that, and everything on paper looks great. Now, the question that none of us know, and the only people that know are in the building, is how are these guys gelling together? How is it coming together? Is it coming together? Are there days where they're doing really well, really bad? Are we throwing the ball well? Are we running the ball well? Some days, when does it all come together? And I think the number one complaint that folks have had, in somebody that has, I guess, an above average trained eye on football, I don't believe that we have stretched the field. And that's not just dropping back, throwing launch after launch, right? Post route, go route, deep balls, but really pushing vertical routes, right? Deep comeback, seam routes, open middle cover two post routes, right? Things that create explosive plays. I don't think that we were very aggressive in that. And I think the last 3 games of the season, we really were, which is why we saw a big difference and big improvement in our offense. They used to tell us all the time in college, if you want to score points, what do you got to do? Well, you got to try. You got to try to score. In pushing the ball, and it's pretty simple. In pushing the ball down the field, helps create explosive plays, and it gives you more breathing room to not only throw quick game to get high percentage completions, but then to ultimately run the football and take control of the game when you need to. And it doesn't have to be all game, but if you take a couple of shots, they're going to have to respect it, because eventually at that level, you're good enough to hit them and connect on them, or they're going to have to back off and say, like, hey, I don't want to get beat over my head. So, taking shots, being aggressive on offense is what I am praying to see, because they have the pieces from my perspective to do that.
Yeah, Spencer Rattler just a couple of days ago too, Perry said, I'm going to play my game. I trust in what Dowell is doing. This offense suits me a lot better. I'm enjoying it a lot. That was an interesting comment from Spencer. So kind of combining what you said with what I said just a couple of minutes ago, being able to utilize your tailbacks out of the backfield and the skills and the speed that they have in catching the football. But that seemed to be like, now I'm, as you know this, I lean on you and Pat and Flint and Garcia and everybody I can to learn as much as possible. But in my, I would call it very uneducated understanding of offense, last year it seemed like they tried to stretch the field, at least until the last 3 games, as you mentioned, by throwing I don't even know what half the plays were, but by throwing passes that were behind, near, or just in front of the line of scrimmage, and creating running lanes for their skill guys and allowing them to get downfield on their own instead of throwing the football downfield, Perry. So it does appear that this system with Dowell is going to throw it actually down the field a little bit more, like we saw in the last 3 weeks. Can you get into that a little bit? And I don't want to make this a conversation about the former offensive coordinator at South Carolina. Those days are gone. And best of luck to Marcus Satterfield at Nebraska. But we saw it a lot last year through the first 7, 8 games, 9 games of the season, where you would see 3rd and 7 or 2nd and 9 or whatever it is, 3rd and 14, and they'd be throwing, I don't even know, some screens, whatever they were, around the line of scrimmage and trying to generate a play out of a short swing style pass instead of throwing it past the sticks. Why was that, and what's going to be different in your opinion moving forward?
I don't know why that was, honestly.
What style of offense is that? We're supposed to have a pro style offense here. That's not what that was.
Well, I think it was high percentage throws and hoping that you get the blocks on the perimeter that allow the guys to go and make the plays they need to. You know, I know that was a complaint last year about guys not blocking on the perimeter. I mean, that's probably the mindset in doing that. I'm all for doing that, but you got to push it vertically in order for those type of plays to work, right? You don't want to open up with plays running laterally, players and routes going to the sideline, because it allows defenders to get on their toes and come downhill and make aggressive breaks on throws. And I'm not saying you open the game with throwing 4 verticals, but there are different things like throwing a hitch route, right? Where they show vertical release, snap it off at 5 balls out of your hand off of, a bailing corner, and you've got an opportunity to get confidence and get some completions early and then kind of move into your game plan from there. That was probably a reasoning why. This year, like I talked about last week, was Dowell's bringing some NFL concepts to the college game. If I don't know Spencer Rattler, but just based off of watching him play, he's got a big arm. He's got a lot of pop on the ball, throws a tight spiral. He probably enjoys doing that. So one would put 2 and 2 together, thinking that he is pressing the ball in the zones of the defense that are more down the field, more 3rd level instead of 1st and 2nd levels, right? So what that looks like is open middle defense. You're throwing corner routes, cover 2 posts, right? Comebacks, post routes, post curls, different things that are, 15 plus yard throws, right? That's not drop back, play action, throw it 70 yards, right? Then when you start doing that, then it allows you to throw some of the quick game, throw some of the RPOs. Then you're really keeping the defense off balance. And if the guys are running good, clean, crisp routes, you can really put defenders on their heels. And more importantly, you can put defensive coordinators in a bind of, hey, do I want to, go press coverage? Do I want to try to press these guys? Do they have the ability to beat me over my head? Do they have the ability to make contested catches? As soon as you do that, then it becomes a nightmare, because then it's a pick your poison, right? It's, what do? I don't know how to defend and stop this offense. And again, it really does all start up front, because if we find ways to control the run game, they have to put that 8th guy in the box. You're getting closed middle coverage, right? Cover 3 or man-to-man. Now the quarterback knows where he's going to go with the football, and it makes a world of difference.
Matchups, Perry. I felt at times in the previous couple of years and even prior to that, that South Carolina did not take advantage of preferable matchups on the offensive side of the football. And to give you an example, last year they go down to Arkansas and get beat 44-30, but Juice Wells emerges. And you think, and you saw it. You matter of fact, if you saw Juice Wells play in the Georgia State game, you knew how talented that kid was. And then we saw him bust out in the Arkansas game, and you thought, wow, they've got something here. He had it. Will Muschamp said it after the game that they weren't going to necessarily do anything specific to stop Juice Wells, and they felt like Juice Wells had a pretty good matchup against their secondary. They felt like he would probably get some yards, and they were going to have to make some adjustments. He didn't even get a target in the game against the number 1 team in the country, which was baffling to pretty much everybody and anybody that's ever actually seen the sport of football be played, at least in America. So when you have a guy who called plays for a decade in the NFL, that tells me he understands matchups, because that's what the NFL is all about.
Yeah, the NFL lives in the world of matchups. Is how can I get this player on this player? Because, they're so talented and they're so smart that, the defense lines up in cover 2, but the offense knows that they're in cover 2, but the way that they play it so sound, they can take away a lot of what the offense does. Well, how do you win? You get my Jimmy is better than your Joe, right? He's going to make the play. He's going to run the right route to make the DB go here, and then he goes here, right? That's how it works. And I think, not every game plan, and sometimes it's the way it shakes out. Sometimes that the top player has, a corner underneath, safety on top, or just somehow, some way doesn't, is not involved in the game plan, but just doesn't get the football. Now, when you have a player like that, you have a few plays, you have 5 to 6 plays where you're like, all right, I got to get number 1, or in his case, 0, the football. It was puzzling. There was a lot that was, but Dowell is sharp. He obviously clearly knows what he's doing. I'm excited for, like I said last week, I'm excited to see what they do. I'm excited to watch the games with a pen and paper and see what concepts I can't steal from them. That's honestly, I won't be in Charlotte. I'm going to watch it on TV and see if I can't pick up a few tips and different formation ideas and motion ideas and all sorts of different things. Because anytime you can learn from a guy that has that kind of experience and wealth of knowledge, it's going to be good. And that's why I think that Spencer will really benefit from it, having played from, Lincoln Riley to last year to now. There's a lot that he brings to the table as well.
Inside the Gamecocks, the show. This is Inside the Playbook with Perry Orth, teed up by travelingcountryclub.com. It's the coolest golf club in the Carolinas. If you play golf, you need to be playing golf through travelingcountryclub.com. It's almost fall. Get into the mountain golf. That is fun stuff in the crisp air of the upstate of South Carolina or the western side of North Carolina. All right.
Yes,
Nick
it
Harbor. Yes, it is. We need to actually maybe take a trip here. Me, Pat DeMarco and I have been talking about that. Get a nice
Let's do it.
All right. Nick Harbor. Okay. So I haven't seen the kid play. I hadn't seen him catch the football. Haven't seen him block anybody. There were some reports that he was having some trouble getting off the line of scrimmage. That tells me more about the defensive backs of South Carolina than it does about Nick Harbor. I think that Marcellus Dial and O'Donnell Fortune are going to have a pretty darn good year, Perry. But so you're South Carolina offensive coordinator, Perry Orth. And the one thing that you do know about Nick Harbor is he literally will run by anybody on the football field. Doesn't matter who it is. He might be the fastest guy in the whole country. He has got world-class speed. That's been proven. What do you do with him?
Yeah, well, he's got to get off the line of scrimmage. Just because I'll tell everybody here right now, just because he's got world-class speed means absolutely nothing to me. I hate to be the bearer of bad news here, but when you're that tall, I assume that he probably runs relatively high, and you got a guy that gets leverage on you and gets up underneath you. It's going to be a challenge. But you have to get the football in his hand, right? He's a guy that you can certainly use to press the field vertically. I don't know. Is he playing receiver or is he playing tight end?
Yeah, they got him at receiver.
Yeah. So, okay. So now he's got to win his one-on-one battles. And, again, with somebody of that kind of speed, you would think in theory that they could just line up and smack their arms and just take off down the field. Well, a lot more challenging than that. I think that, finding a way to give him jet sweeps, right, just depends on how he can run. Trying to find the way to get the ball in his hand is, I think, is the easy part. Now, how well does he execute? I've seen his tape, but I do know for certain that the level of competition between high school and the SEC is vast, and I hope that he, is as good as advertised. But yeah, that's a puzzling one, and that can certainly be frustrating to a fan base, right? Because you see these guys come in as top flight recruits, but I'm not saying that him specifically, but sometimes you'll find kids where their game just did not translate and does not translate. You find it from guys going from college to the NFL, but he's a guy that's going to need to be coached up on how to run good, clean, crisp routes. And then eventually, he will then be able to use his speed and size to win those matchups. I know that was kind of the answer that you weren't hoping for, but that's just the reality of it.
No. I know. Actually, it was. I mean, and I think that I think a freshman, it doesn't matter how highly touted the most highly touted freshman to ever come through South Carolina is a guy named Jadeveon Clowney, and everybody thought he was going to walk right in and he was going to be the starter from day one, regardless of who was on the roster. You know, Melvin Ingram, none of those guys, Devin Taylor, didn't matter. But you know, Brad Lawing, Coach Lawing, God rest his soul, said, "No, you're going to earn it, and you're not just going to walk in and start. I don't care how good you think you are. There's a lot of football you need to learn at this level." And that made him a better football player, and he is the first one to tell you that. So I always try to make sure that fans should understand they need to temper expectations for any highly touted recruit, regardless of what schools wanted him and what they think he can be and this, that, and the other, until he proves himself at that level. I continue to hear the word, like DeMarco mentioned it the other day, motions. You know, if you don't want to get jammed at the line of scrimmage, you can utilize motions. Mm-hmm. But Pat also mentioned that's not always necessarily the best thing for your offense as well. Can you dive into that a little bit deeper?
Yeah, I mean, you have to have, like I said, how well are we meshing together if he's not part of that equation, right? If he's just a talent freak, but, you know, can't play in the slot, or we have to move him outside and move him off the ball and motion him, but, you know, that initial burst is not there. But now in a tight track stance and on with track cleats and no breeze and nobody hitting you, and he can get in the line and run, that's great. But football is a completely different game. Football is played in a box, right? You very rarely are you ever running as fast as you can in a direct straight line. It is a change of direction, rotational side to side game. And I agree with Pat. You know, motions clearly help, but you can't motion every single play, and you can't have plays drawn up every time he's in. All right, we're putting Nick in. Well, now we have to do this. Well, that's not going to help your offense at all, because just because he's super fast, right? Does he make the catch? How does he do when somebody goes to grab him and tackle him? These dudes are big and strong. They don't care how big you are. They're bigger and they're stronger, and they'll bring you right to the ground. And how's the body going to hold up? You know, he's got enormous ability. So I'll be excited to see him progress as a football player. And now I hope that he's one of those guys that it takes 2 weeks for him to get used to working, getting off jams, and getting used to not being able to just push kids off the line. And he is able to use proper technique, then use his gifts to beat corners. Because if he does that, then that's when you get guys like, look at the Alabama receivers they've had over the last few years, right? I mean, you even look at guys like how Brian Edwards used his big frame and used his body positioning to get open and make contested catches, right? Those are the kind of guys, for obvious point example is Alshon Jeffrey, guys getting his number retired. Is it number or jersey?
Jersey. Yeah.
Jersey. Gotcha.
But him and Sidney Rice were exhibit A that. Yeah.
Prime example. So if you can use your body and then use the speed that maybe those guys, you know, they were talented and fast, but not elite world-class fastest person on planet Earth fast. They can use their body positioning plus that speed to make contested catches. I mean, nobody in the country will be able to guard it. And then that's when you have guys that have 1,700 receiving yards, good first-round pick in the NFL, and all the good things that you want as an athlete.
If you're Nick Harbor, you're probably keeping a close eye on guys named Xavier Legette, Juice Wells, and Trey Knox and Josh Simon right now, because those four have proven in their careers. Juice Wells made a couple of catches like that towards the end of last season. One of them, I think, was in the Clemson game, as a matter of fact. It was outstanding. And yeah, so if you're a freshman named Nick Harbor, watch those guys. They're all pretty good.
Yeah.
Add that to your arsenal. And
having an attitude and a willingness to learn from your teammates will help you even in your playing career, right? Watching them, taking advice and being like, you know what, they do some things, I'm going to incorporate that to my game. Having that selfless attitude, it somehow it works. You know, it makes you a better person and a better player.
Well, you're a pretty good person yourself, Perry. Perry Orth, former quarterback at South Carolina, QB1athletics.com. If you have a young quarterback that wants to be trained in the family, maybe your neighbor's kid thinks he's good, but he actually sucks, you want to go to QB1athletics.com, and these guys will get him right. I'm just kidding. Well, don't tell your neighbor's son that he sucks, but if he does, make sure that you head to QB1athletics.com, and they will train you anywhere in the state of South Carolina, and it's pretty darn elite as well. And on that note, we have 2 more of these before they actually kick the dadgum thing off. We'll talk a little more ball next week, and then maybe start previewing the ball game in a couple of Thursdays, Perry, before everyone makes the trip to Charlotte. Thank you so much, as always. It's always good to see you, dude.
You too, brother. Appreciate you having me on, and can't wait to actually start reviewing some games. It'll be fun.
I know. That's what DeMarco's saying. He's like, I just want to actually, look at the game film. Like, well,
yeah, that's right. Just
we're getting there.
Able to go back, watch it, and yep, getting close. We'll talk to you later, brother.
See ya. There you go. Perry Orth, Inside the Playbook with Perry Orth. It is time for a timeout. Chris Phillips with the Spurs Up Show is up next. We're built by the Barndo Co. Inside the Gamecocks, the show, part of the Chief Sports Network. The preferred sign partner of Gamecock Athletics is Signorama Columbia, and they should be yours too. A full-service sign company that handles design, production, install, and service, Signorama Columbia has helped to bring to life the perfect vision for so many all across South Carolina. Owned and operated by proud Gamecock alumni, they can handle all types of signage, including interior and exterior, vehicle graphics, and more. Go to Signorama.com and find the West Columbia location, or call them at 803-407-9284. Bring your brand to life with Signorama Columbia, and go Gamecocks.
Charleston Fitness Equipment is keeping South Carolina in shape. Clients have come from all over the Palmetto State to find that one piece of equipment that they enjoy that keeps them looking and feeling good. Whether it's a home rower, treadmill, elliptical, free weights, a home gym, or something else, Charleston Fitness Equipment keeps the mirror smiling back at you. Get in shape like the Gamecocks do. Visit charlestonfitnessequipment.com. Gamecock owned and operated and proud partners of Inside the Gamecocks, the show.
If you're in the real estate market in the Low Country or even in the Midlands, please contact me, JB, with Coast to Coast Realty SC. You hear me and see me every day here on Inside the Gamecocks, and it would be an honor to earn your business. I've been around real estate my entire life, as it's somewhat of a family business. I work with an elite team of experts from loans to insurance to closing, and they make my clients and my life very easy. It really is elite. Coast to Coast Realty SC.com is where you can find our staff, and you can always reach out to me here as well. Go Gamecocks.
Coach O here, and when I'm not eating average jambalaya or celebrating endless summer in Destin, I like to eat pimento cheese straight off the bucket. And the only pimento cheese I like to eat is from Nana's Porch. It's award-winning. It'll melt in your mouth. It's good on a cracker. It's good in a bowl. It's good on a piece of bread. Also, don't forget Nana's Porch has a hell of a food truck. It's award-winning as well, and they're here for all of your catering needs. So get online, nanasporch.com. It's good. Coach O signing off. Endless summer, go Tiger.
Ladies and gentlemen, here it is.
11:40 on this Thursday, August the 17th. Welcome back inside the Gamecocks, the show powered by Electric Bikes of Charleston, electricbikescharleston.com, where you can drink a case of beer because you can go 60 miles on one of them. And you can also go up to 28 miles per hour. Although if you're drinking beer, I would stay under 20. But electricbikescharleston.com is where you can check them out, and they will service you from anywhere in the wonderful, beautiful, great, and now finally a little bit cooled down state of South Carolina. Chris Phillips with the Spurs Up Show pops in. We are expecting JC at some point in time over the next 48 to 72 hours. He is wrapping up JC and Morgan. Thanks to our friend Perry Orth for joining us to lead off the program. What's up, brother?
JB, Phil, what's going on? It's quite the responsibility to follow up a legend like Perry Orth, but I'll do my very best. And I wanted to say this, too, because I saw JC on live with Mike Morgan, and, of course, you guys rocking with Perry Orth. And I want to say congratulations to you guys, and I hope people really appreciate how much time and effort goes into putting this production together, lining up guests, what you guys have built with Chief Sports Network and what you guys are continuing to build. Obviously, the success is well-deserved. I just hope people, they recognize the hard work that you guys very obviously put into it.
Well, thank you. You do the same thing, as we all know. And Phil's the real MVP today because I doubt he was expecting JC and Mike to just continue to ramble on through the 11 o'clock hour. But they did.
I was like, they're running two separate live shows right now. That's really impressive. That's very impressive. So
hat tip goes to a master producer in Cinerama Studios A. That would be Mad Dog Mullinax, whose hair's already fallen out, so he didn't have to pull it out.
Yeah, right. It was an experience.
Thank God the guy's bald. Yeah, that's right.
I know. Yeah, that's right. Thank goodness I was already sitting down and I have no more hair left to give.
Yeah, that's right. He'll be drinking early today. That's for sure. All right, Chris. We're 2 weeks away from the Gamecocks really kind of closing up shop and hitting the road for Charlotte for walkthroughs and getting ready to kick off against North Carolina. We are not going to spend 1 second of this segment discussing what could or couldn't be based on tweets pertaining to injuries. If you're here for that, the next hour and 18 minutes are going to really bore you because I ain't talking a damn word about it. Who freaking knows? They'll kick off in 2 weeks, and we'll find out. But thus far, what has most interested you through the first couple of weeks of camp?
Yeah, and I'll say this, JB and Phil. I think the unfortunate thing about fall camp is we're all so conditioned to ignore coach speak that, unfortunately, reading so far in between the lines that people drive themselves insane and looking into who's out there, who's not, injury reports, that really is like all we kind of pay attention to, which is somewhat unfortunate because, to your point, I think there are really intriguing storylines. And, I just keep coming back, guys, to Kerryon Joyner and what he's going to be this year. I think he's the most fascinating player on this roster, just in my opinion. I think he's the guy I'm most excited to watch just to see, how his role continues to evolve. And, Spencer Rattler saying he's absolutely RB1. He's the guy. And, we're hearing good things about other players, certainly, but just how that sort of progresses throughout the season. I mean, he's going to get the first crack at it, right, being RB1. But, is that a situation in which, he's going to take over and embrace the role and be the starting running back all year? Is it more of riding the hot hand, running back by committee? Does somebody else emerge in the room and it actually becomes a really nice 2 or 3, set of backs that you rely on? So I think that's been interesting. Spencer Rattler, obviously yesterday, guys, we spoke on this on my show, but, Rattler talking about there hasn't been kind of an adjustment period. There hasn't been growing pains. He feels like they're really grasping the new offense and there's more explosive plays than last year. And again, I know it's somewhat coach speak and this is best shape of your life season. So everybody's undefeated and everybody's playing well and everything. But I mean, that's really great, encouraging signs to hear. And, I'm excited to see it. I know we're all excited to see just what takes place in a couple of weeks in Charlotte because that will obviously be the true test. So, for me, guys, then, of course, hearing the defensive guys yesterday, we'll talk about that a little bit on the show today. Just Nicky Manwari, obviously really excited for he and DQ Smith in the season ahead. I thought it was interesting the way he spoke on Jelon Kilgore. That's a guy that people have raved about, and obviously Nick's excited about. And the Debo Williams football guy T-shirt sort of took Twitter by storm, and I wake up wanting to kill mantra. So there were some things, certainly. I mean, again, we read between the lines, and there's certain tidbits you can take away that go beyond the injury side of things and trying to project those things. And I will say this too, guys. It's unfortunate because here's the reality. The first day of fall camp was the last day that anybody on this roster was going to be 100%. Like, to Shane Beamer's point, it goes with any sport too. You know this, JB, with baseball. Like, the first day of camp or the first day of practice, that's the last time all season you're going to feel 100%. You just play through it. Like, you deal with nicks, you deal with bruises, you get banged up, whatever, and you just play through it unless it's something, obviously, that is you have to rest, you have to be sidelined. So I would say to folks, just take a step back, take a deep breath. We're almost there. We'll get an actual injury report going into UNC. And, if there are certain guys that aren't on the practice field with a couple of days till kickoff, well, then maybe I'm going to start to get pretty concerned. But, right now, I would say if they're holding out guys for a day or two or guys in a blue jersey, there's no point in, to your point about Phil, losing your hair over it. I mean, there's just no point in doing so. So,
no. Yeah. Well, there's not, and JC has just popped in, and we're glad to have him.
Nice JC
this morning, JC, this morning on JC and Morgan. I mentioned this earlier with Perry, Chris, and I'm actually a little bit surprised that this quote has not received more attention than it has. This is from Alex Jones's reporting on thebigspur.com, but. Spencer Rattler, when asked on what he wanted to improve on heading into the season, he said, just working everything with my game. I feel like mechanically I'm sound. Just obviously consistency with protecting the ball. That was probably the number one thing. Other than that, I'm going to play my game, and then this is it. I trust in what Dowell is doing. This offense suits me a lot better. I'm enjoying it a lot. Coming in – when he came to, I think it tells a lot. But look, you got to go back, right? Because when he came in, what was this whole the fan base, the country, everything was sold this big bag of goods. And I'm not saying that it was by Coach Beamer. That's not what I'm getting at here. But he's going to come in and he's going to learn this pro style offenses. That's what's really going to get him to the NFL. Well. I don't need to say anymore. And now you have a guy, who actually ran a pro style offense in, the NFL. And all of a sudden it's like, so this is what I feel like he's saying, like, I think this is what I was supposed to be getting myself into when I got here last year.
And I'll get Chris's take on this in a second. I'm going to use an example from the NFL, the Kansas City Chiefs. Okay. And everybody's like, oh my God, JC just compared Carolina's offense to the Chiefs. No, I didn't. All right, when Patrick Mahomes came in, he's an air raid guy. Air raid is kind of a high school offense. It's easy to learn. It's fun to watch, quarterback friendly, whatever. And so he had a big learning curve. And what Andy Reid and all of his genius, because he is a genius, cuckoo, he decided to adapt that to the pro game. And when you watch the Chiefs, it is a pro style offense. They have to have the nuance and stuff to compete. But there's a lot of concepts that he's begged, borrowed, and stealed from Mike Leach and other folks. And I think you'd be lying to say that that's not a fun offense to watch. And it is a pro-style system. What the other guy tried to do is emulate the Rams. It's also a nice system, Sean McVay, right? But you read anything about the Rams offense, and they actually go out as an organization and so they only sign receivers that can block. If you can't block as a receiver, you don't play for the Rams. They'll trade you. They put heavy emphasis on big athletic offensive linemen. All right, so South Carolina didn't have either one of those things, and it just didn't fit the personnel. So I think a lot of what Dowell is going to do is yes, it's still a pro style offense. It's still not an air raid. It's still preparing Spencer for the NFL, but it's much more conducive to being successful in games at the collegiate level because it's not as complex and mind boggling and the guy calling it's going to know that this year too. I think.
Yeah, I mean, I would say this, guys, again, of course, I'm not an offensive coordinator, but, knowing a pro-style offense. You know what gets you drafted? Stats. Like, if you can't put up stats, I don't really care what any of it means. And so, to your point, JB, about Dowell Loggins, it's just – yeah, I mean, they obviously overthought things. It was way too complex. It was, I mean, you could just literally see the gears turning in person. I mean, I'll just never forget being at that freaking Mizzou game and just watching it. And it was like watching paint dry and the check with me thing and just Spencer Rattler like he was running through mud and the entire offense looking that way. And it's like you knew there were talented players out there and the whole deal with this guy's going to touch it 20 times and he touches it 0. I mean, there were just mind-boggling things that were taking place. So I feel confident in saying that that's going to go away, and I think Shane Beamer and company, and you have to think they all learned from that experience. You know, label it how you want those first 2 years. As long as you're able to pick up and learn from that, you're okay. And I like to believe they did, and I think that's what Dowell Loggins, I mean, they've been saying all the right things since the jump, and I think that's what they're going to bring. I think they're going to play fast and free, and it doesn't mean they're going to play mistake-free football. I mean, I think Spencer Rattler, he acknowledges, I'm going to play my game. Well, his game's being a gunslinger, and sometimes his game is trusting his arm, and sometimes it gets him in trouble. But, like, you have to let him play free and do his thing because a lot of times it's going to result in a 72-yard touchdown pass to Juice Wells, or it's going to result in, you know, him putting his shoulder down and trucking a guy for a touchdown or throwing a great fourth down, you know, throw in the back of the end zone for a touchdown. So you got to roll the dice and let him play free and let him play loose and let him do his thing. And if the pieces around him work out, I have no doubt Spencer Rattler is going to have his best collegiate season. I really do. So, again, it doesn't mean he's going to be mistake-free, but it definitely sounds great that Dowell Loggins and company are committed to, hey, KISS, keep it simple, stupid, just let the guys go play, get it to your playmakers. It feels very no-duh, but apparently for the previous guy, it wasn't so simple. So, you know, we'll see how they're able to do that.
Yeah, I'm really intrigued, and I also think that the NFL, we just spent a whole segment on this with Perry Orth about, you know, how you get the ball downfield. And last year, you know, JC just mentioned receivers blocking and this, that, and the other, and that seemed to be what the offense was: throw it around the line of scrimmage, let them clear the lane, use your feet, and go. And this guy's going to probably throw the football downfield, and I think it's also going to ease the concerns with the running back room, because in the NFL, it's not like the old days where you take your first pick, or in your first couple of picks, take a running back. You now take them in the 4th, 5th, 6th round, and you let the offense become the machine for the running back to work with. What about on both sides of the football? And as I know we got to get you out of here in the next couple of minutes here, but what about a couple of guys, if you want to name one on each side, that'd be great, that maybe are a little under the radar at this point in time, or maybe not being talked about enough, at least in your mind, or the flip side of that you've heard enough about them to think, okay, this guy is going to have a good year while we're all focused on these other ones.
I would say on the offensive side, guys, Nick Gargiulo is a player from Yale that I know we were really high on, and he came in spring, and you know, nice addition from Yale, was a captain there, but like continuing to hear these players rant and rave over him. And when you hear a guy like Sidney Fugar go on record and say, this guy's the heart and soul of our offensive line, it's like he wasn't here, you know, a year ago. Like, he just got here pretty recently. So to fill into that role and be that type of leader, that it's one thing coming from the coaches, right? And you know this, JB, JC, and Phil, and like you've been on teams and stuff. It's one thing for coaches to say, hey, that guy's a leader. He's this, he's that. When you got your teammates saying that's a completely different ballgame. So I'm excited to see how Nick Gargiulo leads the offensive line. And because I think that for the offensive line, if they're going to surprise and take that step forward, with all due respect to the guys who have been here for a while, I think a lot of it will come down to guys, these newcomers like Nick Gargiulo, Sidney Fugar, Jackson Hughes, Nee Manziel, maybe some others that fit, maybe Marquis Anderson and Trovon Bowe, but it's going to come down to some newcomers, I think, giving that line kind of a boost, because, you know, some of these guys, again, all due respect, you've been here 3, 4, 5 years, you maybe sort of just are what you are, but these new guys can give you that boost. And when you hear a guy, again, the heart and soul of the offensive line and leader, and Spencer Rattler's talking about it, he's pancaking guys, he's everything you want to know, lineman, you know, that's a really encouraging sign. I mean, that's just great to hear, to know that South Carolina, you know what, it may be a struggle, it may be a work in progress, but they're going to have a guy in Gargiulo that's going to say, hey, he's going to be able to rally the troops, get them together, and you think band together and hopefully play their best football. On the defensive side, I loved what I heard from Debo Williams. I will say I love what I heard from him at the linebacker position, just that mentality. Also, this stood out to me, guys, and we're going to talk about this again today on our show, but I loved hearing Debo Williams with the self-awareness of he's a veteran, and he said, I want to be the smartest football player I can be. And it's like, you know what? Maybe you don't have the ceiling of a Pup Howard or the ceiling of a Mo Kaba, and I'm certainly not taking away from Debo, but maybe you don't have that ceiling. But you know what you can do? You can control your effort. You can control your film study. You can control your mind. And so, you know, using that to elevate your game, I just thought that was I thought that was really encouraging to hear, like that level of self-awareness, right? To be like, hey, I just want to be the smartest football player I can be. I can make a positive impact for this team. Obviously, he's going to fly around, make plays. He talked about that killer instinct, that killer mentality, but that really jumped off the page to me. And then, you know, of course, guys, when you hear Nicky Manwari speak, talk about, you know, he's a freak of nature and everything, and like you love the confidence, and he and DQ Smith. I mean, I think they have a lot of reason to be very, very confident and excited to watch those guys and sort of what they have to follow up, you know, stellar freshman campaigns. But, you know, again, you read between the lines, there's definitely been things that jumped out, but that's definitely been a few for me that really have caught my eye.
Debo Williams has, in my opinion, a lot of Shaq Wilson in him. If he does this year, that's a pretty good sign for him personally and the rest of the group. Go ahead, JC.
I think he's got a little Shannon Wadley in him, too, when he gets a clear shot at you.
Body bag Williams. Body bag Debo. Body bag Debo. My bite, fool.
You gotta make
there's a new Debo in town.
What you got on my drink, Smokey?
I got $20. All right, Chris, we'll let you out of here on that note. We're getting close, man. Hang in there. You will be in Montana next week, correct?
Yeah, I'll be in Montana, man. I'm excited. I looking forward to getting some R&R, and you know, we're going to put a pin in the preseason content tomorrow, which I'm really excited about. It's been a fun preseason, but excited to put that behind us. Again, take that R&R. We'll still be dropping podcasts, and of course we'll be active, so nobody fret there, but won't be live for the week, won't be with you guys. But man, I just can't even put into words how excited I am for game week.
Get away from it. You will fall in love. It is unbelievable.
First time. So I'm looking for. We confirmed, by the way, this morning the trip to Yellowstone. So we're going out there for a day. It's going to be a good time. So
you'll have
plenty of pictures.
Remember, I said this. You see nothing, but you see everything. You'll know exactly what I'm talking about. When you're traveling those roads, that speed limits are 80 miles an hour, and you're like, yeah, I can go 100. There's nobody out here. Yeah. It's awesome. Have a safe trip. Have a blast. We'll see you when it's time to start previewing the Carolina versus North Carolina game.
I love it. JC, JB, Phil, appreciate you guys. We'll talk soon.
Thanks, man. There you go. Thanks, Chris Phillips with the Spurs Up Show. Got to step aside for a break because Mike Morgan is going to give us another hour worth of programming today. So
I hadn't seen Mike in a long time.
Yeah, he's, filling his time with this, and we're happy to have him. Power Hour presented by Palmetto Medicare. We are teed up by travelingcountryclub.com and built by the Barndo Co. Inside the Gamecocks. We'll be right back. Welcome home. That's what the Gamecocks say, and so does the Barndo Company, where they can build your dream home starting as low as $160 per square foot. If you live in the Carolinas, Georgia, or Tennessee, their turnkey process takes just 4 to 6 months on average and can be custom designed by size and details. Make your dream a reality. Visit thebarndominiumco.com. That's thebarndominiumco.com. The Barndo Company, Gamecock, owned and operated.
Welcome to TravelingCountryClub.com, your modern golf club experience. Hey folks, this is Michael Manus, former Gamecock golfer, inviting you to play more golf with a membership to TravelingCountryClub.com. With over 40 courses across the Carolinas, our membership provides you with an affordable way to enjoy a club-like golf experience. From the mountains to the coast, we offer golf courses that will challenge all types of golfers, no matter your handicap level or level of play. Plus, we offer unique membership benefits not seen anywhere else as part of Traveling Country Club. Tee it up with Traveling Country Club, TravelingCountryClub.com, TravelingCountryClub.com, proud partners of Inside the Gamecocks, the show.
Hey everybody, this is Mo Copper from Carolina Football. The show is painted garnet black every day by a couple of painters. Go to letmepaintsomething.com to check them out. Go Cox.
10% off for military repeat customers or mention the show. Interior, exterior painting, fencing, cabinet staining, concrete painting, popcorn ceiling removal, and more. 803-522-6832. LetMePaintSomething.com.
Just as your State Farm agent combines good neighbor service with surprisingly great rates, you can combine your home, auto, life, or small business insurance with Tony Pope State Farm Insurance today. And guess what you'll get? That's right, even more good neighbor service with surprisingly great rates. In fact, Tony Pope State Farm is your go-to agent anywhere in South Carolina, North Carolina, or Georgia for the service you deserve at the price you want. So try combining your home, life, auto, and or small business insurance today. Tony Pope State Farm has been in business for more than 30 years and can handle anything you need in the tri-state area. Once again, Tony Pope State Farm will help you mix and match perfectly. Call 843-851-2222 or visit TonyPope.com today. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Nana's Porch, nanasporch.com. At Nana's Porch, they cater weddings, parties, and all kinds of special events. Their meals are served buffet style. In seconds, they're encouraged. Plus, they can bring their mobile food unit to bring on-site and serve your guests as a unique alternative for your catering needs. Inquire about rentals as well. nanasporch.com. Find them on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. 336-259-7550.
If you're on Medicare currently or approaching eligibility, it's time to enroll in a Medicare plan that meets your needs. Palmetto Medicare is here to help you through the process. Palmetto Medicare's owner, Brian Spencer, and his team of experts are here to assist you. Learn about the benefits and enroll in the plan that will cover as many of your medical costs as possible. Some of the advantages of Medicare health plans may include a variety of plan choices, increased benefits, lower premiums, and more. Give Palmetto Medicare a call to discuss your insurance and help get the exact coverage for your needs today.
Yeah, man. Hour number 2. Rolling right along today.
Yeah,
I'm glad there's only one podcast going on right now.
Well, there is no. This is not a podcast. There's only one program.
Well, that's true.
Going on right now.
It's a program.
I have to reprogram all of you. I heard JC rambling on about that earlier this morning.
I said podcast, and I didn't say it but once. And I thought about
it. Sounded like 100 times to me.
I've been doing well to not do that.
It's a
you've been doing a great Phil, you cannot be criticized today. You have kept the train on the tracks. If anybody messes with Mad Dog, it's over.
I didn't even know that Chief App was capable of doing 2 shows at once, but it pulled it off miraculously. I kind of felt like that guy that built the sub to the Titanic, honestly, when that happened. Because
that's what I felt like.
Although Jamie did build that. Jamie built the app. Jamie built the app, but this was like uncharted waters. So I was like, oh, snap. But hey,
I was like, there are so many moving pieces here that have to work for this to work.
And it was
when I hit go live on Inside the Gamecocks, I'm like, well, it's now or never.
Here we go.
Let's go.
By the way,
I can't tell you how interesting it is to have two podcasts simultaneously in your ears at the same time and trying to do all that, because what I did find out is there's no way to actually turn one of them off without turning them both off.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so that's what was going on with me for 25 minutes.
Yeah,
Phil, I'm so sorry.
In the
Fun.
future,
No, y'all are good, man. It's like it was an experience, one that
we have technical upgrades coming soon where you'll be able to have two screens and you can, that's just it's just coming soon. So just hang in there. 12:04 here on this Thursday, August 17th. Painted garnet and black by a couple of painters. LetMePaintSomething.com. Hello to Tristan and his beautiful bride and their wonderful family. And if you would like to join them as part of their team, you can do that by heading to LetMePaintSomething.com. They need painters. That means they're busy. They're busy because they're excellent. They're excellent because they're well priced. They're well priced because they're smart. They're smart because they're Gamecocks. LetMePaintSomething.com, where you can find the best painters in the dadgum state of South Carolina and what they call the Peach State, although Georgia only produces 5% of the nation's peaches and South Carolina produces 12. So take that, Georgia. South Carolina should be the Peach State and the Palmetto State, and you should be nothing. But we'll leave that for another day. All right. Yeah.
Sorry.
Nope,
I was gonna, there's some direct questions for yours truly over here. Clint says, will there be any merchandise for sale at the tailgate? No, we're not selling anything at the tailgate.
It's a tailgate.
It's a give back. Plus, I think it's against the rules. There's no vending per se in terms of selling things for cash, but we'll have a lot of giveaways. Clint, if you have something specific you have your eye on, so shoot me an email. I'll see if I have it in stock, and I'll bring it there for you specifically, since you're such a tremendous part of our show and my message board and all that. Marion says, are you going to be in Columbia throughout the season? Yes, not every single waking moment, but a lot. High speed, I don't know what JC Spillett RGF means. Also, did you guys touch on Mark Kingston earlier?
No.
There's a board of trustees meeting. Looks like he's getting a new contract coming up. That was out. David Cloninger reported that.
Yeah.
So by the way, I talked to David yesterday for an article he's doing on NIL that I want you all to read on Saturday in the Charleston Post and Courier to kind of shed some light on that topic. So always good to catch up with old Dave. He's something else. So it was good to talk to him. So anyway, that's all I had to say about that.
Man, happy birthday, 76. Caught that.
Oh,
yeah, man.
Happy birthday, 76, Joe.
Yeah,
Happy
absolutely.
birthday.
I meant to mention that earlier. I saw that. Happy. How old are you? 76. Come on, tell us.
He says he has a circle and a frozen screen. So does Krager.
Well,
we waited on the birthday shout out till he couldn't hear us. That's crazy.
No.
That would
Mike Morgan, and now maybe everybody's screen will act right now that we've got a broadcast professional in our midst.
That would be if there is an issue going on there, which we can probably check into that a little bit. That would probably not be on our end. We would know.
It is not.
I'm clear. I'm clear right now.
I'm clear.
Clear.
Two thumbs up here.
Did you grab yourself a bourbon or something between programs, Mike?
No, that was last night. Between programs, I go back to the locker room.
Take a nap.
I get down on one knee. I collect my thoughts, evaluate how things went on JC and Morgan, and then clean whatever is in my palate from the last show and start fresh here, because we don't know where this show is going to go. It can be a completely different spot. I just don't know what you guys have cooked up.
Well, really not much. I mean, there's nothing.
Okay. Well, good night, everybody. There you have it, folks. He's not the best color man in the league for nothing.
That broadcasting school's really paying off.
That's when I did the show. So when I switched from quick story, I always try to bring a little anecdote to the program before we dive deep into whatever you guys want to dive deep into. Go back to 2002. 2002, I am working for Clear Channel, which was the behemoth in sports radio nationwide. And in Columbia, we had the only sports talk station, and our afternoon show was number one. We were doing really well, and I was doing Gamecock baseball, and life was good. And we had just come back. No, I remember I was calling the second game against Clemson with a win gets you into the title game against Texas. Back then it was one game, not a series.
Mm-hmm.
And back then, the communication between me and in this case Omaha or wherever it happened to be, and the producer, the board ops back in Columbia, it was just that it was back in Columbia. So I dealt with people at the radio station, not somebody in Winston-Salem like they do now with all the Learfield schools.
Yeah.
And I remember it's like the seventh inning and Carolina's up and life is good and a championship game is about to happen and I'm all joyous. And our top sales guy, let's just say his name is Greg, pops onto the microphone in the commercial break and says, "Hey, Mike, we just lost the Gamecocks. I don't know what's going on. Good luck the rest of the way." And I was like, "Excuse me?" The word had circulated that company and 560 WVOC, which had been the home of the Gamecocks for nearly a half a century, had just lost the rights to another company called at the time Citadel, which is now a different name altogether. And they didn't have a sports station. So therefore they didn't have a sports show. They had a light music station, an oldies station, and a news talk station on a weaker signal. And that's where I was going to be asked to move to if I wanted to keep calling Gamecock games. So I had a really successful sports talk show that I really enjoyed doing on an all-sports station. And it was the perfect synergy to have that as well as VOC and have, we just had a really good thing going. Well, then all of a sudden, I get back. We get off the bus. We don't go back to wherever we're supposed to. We land the plane. The bus goes straight to the Sarge, and there's a welcoming committee for the team. And all the players go up to the microphone. They say, we fell just short of the Natty, but we beat Clemson twice in Omaha. We won the SEC. It's an incredible year. And I'm sitting there going, what am I doing? Am I no longer with this station? And basically it was told to me, well, if you want to keep doing Gamecock games, you got to change companies. So my show wound up going to the other company, which eventually, after much begging and pleading by people like me to actually have an all-sports station as opposed to having, say, Gamecock football follow Celine Dion on a light music channel, Gamecock basketball follow a random oldies tune in the middle of the night on an oldies channel, and Gamecock baseball on a station that people couldn't hear at night. That was the move. That was the new format. And so I wound up moving because I didn't want to give up Gamecock games ever. And then we launched 107.5, and my first partner, 107.5, it was different people. My first partner at the new building was Jay Phillips, and I didn't know Jay from Adam. Mm-hmm. Jay's background was in news primarily, and I didn't. So when we first started doing the show, I would say something, and he would say something that wouldn't necessarily fit, and I'd had the drop. He's not the best cover man in the league for nothing, folks. And we had a lot of fun. I mean, Jay had a good sense of humor about it, I think. And but those were, as you guys know, anytime you're doing, whether it's a show like this or whether it's calling games, I mean, chemistry and synergy are very important. They don't always happen right away. Sometimes it never happen at all. And so when you're taken out of your comfort zone and then you're like thrown a new partner and you've never seen them or heard of them or anything, and that stuff happens sometimes. But that's what made me think of that. He's not the best color man in the league for nothing, but we got a lot of mileage out of that cut. Got a lot of mileage out of Bob Uecker.
Well, Bob Uecker and in the industry that we're in provided more lines than any other movie ever.
He was
Seriously.
so good in that movie. And all those lines are written by him. Every one of them. They said, carte blanche, Bob, you're the baseball broadcaster. You come up with the funny lines. And everyone, just a bit outside, he tried the corner and missed. Everyone that he threw out there, the Indians suffering from propeller lag, everything he said, it's like Dangerfield and Caddyshack. It's just like boom, 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 one after the other. All of them just home runs. All of them just knocking it out of the park. And without that, the movie's good without Uecker, but it's not great without Uecker. That Uecker is the magic with that film, no doubt.
Yeah, and he's an excellent broadcaster. By the way, Mike, and I do want to talk about the Gamecocks and the SEC, so we'll get into that. But just curious, what did you think about? I think his name's Kevin Brown, the play-by-play guy for the Orioles, getting suspended.
I thought it was embarrassing for the Orioles. Now, the wild card in something like that is always, well, is there anything that led up to it? Were there other situations? I don't know Kevin that well. I know him. I've met him, but I don't know him that well. I know Ben McDonald extremely well because I worked with him for 10 years, give or take, and he's kind of a part-time analyst for them. Mm-hmm. And I was tempted to call Ben and go, come on, man, what's the real scoop on this? But I didn't want to put him in a tough spot because I know how that is. When you're doing games for a team, you can be at the mercy of somebody who is completely irrational, unqualified, unprofessional, doesn't get it. All those things can apply because at the end of the day, if they sign the check, then that's it. And if you've got an owner who didn't have a great rep to begin with, and that owner wants to just sugarcoat everything and is hypersensitive about everything, you're at his mercy. So then he has to go on air and do like a hostage video apology, which deep down he's thinking, I don't believe in any of this. I didn't do anything wrong, and everybody in my industry has told me I didn't do anything wrong. But if he wants to keep that job, he was clearly told you need to do this. And so that just brings more attention to it. And it becomes really more and more of an embarrassment. So I thought the whole thing was embarrassing.
It was beyond embarrassing. If I was him, I'd quit at the end of the year. I'd get
You say that, Jamie, but I'll tell you this. There's only 30 major league jobs. And he may never get that opportunity again. Yeah. So it's like you do want to quit on principle. But he's got a family, and maybe he just doesn't feel that that's the way to go.
Yeah, I don't know. It was I thought I remember reading when that happened. Well, I saw a tweet. I think it was from Awful Announcing, and it was like, "Here's the clip that got him suspended." And so I watched the clip, and then it ended, and I thought to myself, maybe they posted the wrong clip. Like that he didn't. There was nothing that was said in there that he should be suspended for. So let me go back and listen again. Maybe it'll play longer. I don't know. Obviously, I'm missing something.
No, he just stated facts. I mean,
nope.
And
actually,
facts,
they were really good facts.
Well, yeah, and it's facts that, in all honesty, he didn't come up with. I guarantee you, he got those from the game notes. Play-by-play guys don't sit there with a calculator all night and come up with it. You read, you digest, and I think one of the underrated skills, and quite frankly, most incorrectly used skills, is being able to just not regurgitate a bunch of things you read in the game notes. You have to decipher what's relevant and what's not relevant. You have to know what statistic actually means something versus what statistic is just minutia. And too often I hear announcers regurgitating what they read, and they're reading stuff and it doesn't I don't become any wiser or more knowledgeable based on what you just told me. All you just told me is something you saw on page 17, and it didn't really help me.
Right. Well, that's why you're the pro. We ask you the tough questions here, and that was glad you answered it, because I don't understand what the hell that was all about.
You're not alone. You are not alone.
Nobody understood it. All right, I tell you what, Mike. Let's just it's right at 12:20, so let's go ahead and take a break, and then when we return, we'll get into some football regarding the South Carolina Gamecocks and the rest of the SEC. Hang tight. Inside the Gamecocks, the show from the Signorama Studios. We'll be right back. Golfers and wannabe golfers, former Gamecock golfer Meredith Taylor is now a full-time golf instructor in the Midlands of South Carolina. In-person golf lessons are held at the Country Club of Lexington. Half-hour, hour, on course 9 or 18 holes. And if you're outside of South Carolina, Meredith conducts virtual lessons. Just send in your golf swing for analysis. Gift cards are available for in-person 1-hour lessons. Connect on Twitter at Mayor Taylor and find her online at McKellarEnterprises.org. Her email is on the website. Schedule your next lesson today with Meredith Taylor, former Gamecock golfer. Electric Bikes of Charleston offers the most fun you'll ever have on two wheels. Magnum, Velotric, Aventon bikes, and more. And they sell to consumers all across the state and offer outstanding warranties and service after the sale. 5 levels of pedal assist plus a throttle help you handle the southern heat better, but still get great exercise. Bikes are available all ages and sizes. ElectricBikesCharleston.com or stop into their store in Mount Pleasant. Electric Bikes of Charleston, powering Inside the Gamecocks, the show.
Bikes are Charleston! Electric Bikes of Charleston! Electric Bikes of Charleston! Electric Bikes of Charleston! Bikes of Charleston!
All right, 12:22. There you go. Everything should be working fine now, everybody.
Yeah, that's yeah. They're trying my patience today.
Yeah,
but
it's the nature of the beast. Sometimes it is what it is, and Mike Morgan will tell you, even as a national broadcaster, things happen.
What happened?
And
there?
You work through it.
It's a YouTube server
apparently
issue.
There were some issues.
Yeah, and 76. Look, I know it's your birthday. Yeah. That little smart ass comment about the advertising is working, whatever. This is a YouTube situation. So you can either deal with that and accept that or leave. I don't care. I'm sitting there watching the chat box. There's absolutely nothing we can do about it. We don't have anything on our end that's bad. And you guys, you're supposed to be our fans. You're just sitting there giving us the business about something that's out of our control. I'm sick of it. Come on, I mean, don't be so sensitive, man. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday. That's how all that started. I wished him a happy birthday. I'm sorry.
All we are saying.
Way to go, Phil.
That's right.
I mean, I'm sorry. I can't take it anymore.
Kill.
No. I mean, it's like we intentionally were like, we're not going to let you hear any of the good stuff, but the ads, Yeah, we're going to throw the ads at you and on purpose. Like we're sitting here pushing these buttons. We want you to hear us.
And in the background, just sitting the ads.
It's a YouTube server issue. You want me to call? What's the guy's name that runs Google? You want me to call him? Hey,
the good news is,
I know you're in. Yeah, if you missed it,
you can go back and listen.
Go back and listen because there's no recording. Sometimes when we have issues on our end, that affects the recording of the show. You can go back and listen at any time. We were fine. But I mean, you want to call the Google guy? He's probably sitting on a beach in Bali somewhere, sipping a Mai Tai with partial nudity all around him, eating fruit, and he's gonna be like, "Oh, I'll get right on that, Mr. Sherbert." And it wasn't the complaints. I understand when you complain. It was the ad comment that set me off there. Like we're intentionally serving you the ads, but not
actually we are.
Content. I just anyway, I don't know. You were joking, 76. Happy birthday. But
it's all good.
Sometimes you get a little sensitive, man. It seems like you get a little sensitive. Toughen up a little bit, man. Come on.
We're all family here.
Mike,
here we go. You can rally.
Mike, we are 2 weeks away from the Florida Gators taking the field in the great state of Utah against the Utes. It is, according to the preseason top 25 rankings, one of 5 ranked opponents that are on their schedule. And it is one of 2 ranked opponents that they're on the road against, at least as the preseason rankings portray at this point in time. The other is LSU in November. They did that right. I'd rather be in Utah in August and Baton Rouge in November if you are playing football for the Florida Gators. That's for sure. But as it looks today, when you take a peek at what the Gators have, and you go, okay, you got Florida, you got Utah, which I don't know a lot about them, but they're ranked in the top 15. You've got the Vols, and they've got that game at home on Saturday night on ESPN, September the 16th. They've got Georgia and Jacksonville. We all know. They got to go to Baton Rouge. We all know what that's like. And then, of course, they got Florida State, and that game is in the Swamp as well. From the outside looking in before the season starts, Mike, that's 5 losses. But it doesn't always work like that, and we know that. And this is Florida, and we also know that Florida has recruited incredibly well every single year. Doesn't mean they've won every year, but they've recruited incredibly well. Florida, to me, it seems like the wild card of the SEC East, in my opinion. I think that the SEC East, there's a lot of blue-collar programs trying to, quote-unquote, take the step, right? South Carolina, Missouri, Kentucky, and Vanderbilt feels like their hat should be in the mix. And then there's Florida, who's supposed to be elite every year, but they really, if you go back over the last 10 years, they have not been consistently elite at all, as a matter of fact. But if they could put it together, they are the team, in my opinion, that can reorganize the East when all these other programs are trying to get up there in that second or third spot.
Well, to your original point, I think there are multiple wild card teams in the East because it's like Georgia up top, and then it's Vanderbilt at the bottom with Missouri, I don't think too far behind or in front of, I guess I should say. And then it's 2 through 5, Tennessee, Carolina, Florida, Kentucky. If I were to pick the biggest wild card, I actually think it's Kentucky. I don't think Florida's very good. I mean, you could make the case of Graham Mertz. Yeah, you could make the case that Graham Mertz is the 14th out of 14 quarterbacks in this league.
I don't like it. No, I agree with that.
You know, I mean, I just, so like, if you're playing, this is what's going to come up at some point. If you're playing against Florida, who do you fear? There's no Kyle Pitts. There's no blue chip wideout. I mean, their best wide receiver last year was a transfer from Arizona State, kind of a scrappy kid. And your quarterback is a guy that didn't do a heck of a lot at Wisconsin before he transferred. You know, in time, these recruiting wins that they're having right now might start to get Florida back to relevance, but I don't see it this year. I mean, I just look at a team and a program that is still spinning its wheels. And look, if they roll up another 6 and 7 and have another embarrassing loss like they did a year ago to Vanderbilt, no one's going to fire Billy Napier after 2 years, nor should they. But I'm telling you right now, it's going to get toxic there in a hurry. Just like it didn't take long for the love affair with Dan Mullen to turn toxic like that. The expectations of that fan base, we talked Tuesday about that documentary. It's coming out. I think it's called Swamp Gators. It's going to be all negative. Swamp Kings, yeah. It's going to be all negative for obvious reasons. But keep in mind that there were 2 national championships during that time frame under Urban. And then there were even 2 trips to the SEC championship game under coaches like McElwain and others. And Dan Mullen made it to Atlanta once. So they have an expectation level there that I don't think is going to be met this year at all. I don't think they're in the class of Georgia, Tennessee. I think they're just trying to say, can we separate ourselves from Kentucky and South Carolina and Missouri? And they did lose to Vanderbilt. So to me, a really good season in Gainesville this year is 7 wins. A really good season.
Wow. I don't disagree with that. I'm trying to figure out why is there, and I'm not talking about the AP necessarily. I mean, I will lump them in, but the AP and the coaches, they all have them just outside the top 25 to start the year. Why?
Well, they're Florida.
Honestly, I don't. Well, I mean, and honestly, I spent like literally 5 minutes on both polls combined because I don't,
I get it.
But when you start getting to like who's 27, 28, 29, you're grasping, right? And I realize that's where Carolina is right now, right? Mm-hmm. Right around that area. I mean, the people that vote on those polls, you're just grasping. And there's not, I talked about this last time, there's not a huge difference between the 15th best team in the country and the 35th best team in the country. So I don't know where Florida fits and all that. I just look at it and I'm keeping it for, they could easily lose at Utah on that Thursday night game, just like they almost lost it at home. Now, Cam Rising,
He's banged up. He's banged up, but the guy, the third, and the backup's out with a catastrophic injury. But
right.
I just looked this up. Bryson Barnes, is their guy that they've been repping, and he came into the Rose Bowl against Ohio State 2 years ago and lit them up through a miraculous touchdown pass late to tie the game. So it's not like he's never been on the big stage before.
I mean, Rising is special, though. Like, that would be a big loss.
That's a loss. And against the Gator defense, Mike, I'm sitting here looking at their depth chart, and I do think on defense, they don't have a lot of depth, and they lost some guys. And up front, Justice Boone, who was supposed to start for them, is out already for the year. He's a South Carolina kid from Sumter, so I'm pretty familiar with him. The D-line is probably not Florida level like you'd think. They got some good recruits coming in. They're probably going to have to rely on some young players. I do like their linebackers, though. Triada Mitchell's coming in from Ohio State. Shamar James was a big-time recruit at the will linebacker spot. I like their secondary a bit. Jalen Kimber was at Georgia, and he's starting at one corner. Jason Marshall at the other. Kamari Wilson's a known guy. And then at running back, I think on offense, the Gators are going to be – and that fan base, as you know, Mike, does not like this. They do not like hearing – we're going to run and play defense and punt and play field position.
Right.
and that's what they're going to have to do and be very Graham Mertz does not suck. Graham Mertz has just not been as good as people thought during his career. At the same time, Florida is not talented enough on the perimeter outside of Pearsall, the Arizona State guy that you mentioned, to say, well, he can just be a game manager. I mean, in this game nowadays, you're going to have to throw the ball. And they're not good enough up front to just line up and pound you with what I think's a lot of good. I mean, they have really good backs. Montrell Johnson's really good back. Trevor Etienne, Travis's brother, really good back.
Can't we say that about almost every team in the league, JC? Like
probably,
what SEC team doesn't have at least one good back, right?
South Carolina doesn't have.
I don't agree with that, though.
I'm not saying they don't have one good back. I'm saying they don't have a proven back, right?
They don't have a proven back.
That's different. Yeah,
but I mean, they have guys who have that have some stars next to their name that have some height, weight, speed, all that. Like, In other words, you're either like a game-changing back. You're a Saquon Barkley type. You're a Bijan Robinson type, or you're that next level guy who's solid. And if you give him enough carries, he might flirt with 1,000. I don't think we've had a 2,000-yard rusher since 2019. That year we had 4 of them. Just goes to show you again the changing of philosophy on how you win championships at this level. It's not just ground and pound anymore. If it was, Wisconsin be sitting on about 5 natties. Instead, they're revamped their whole deal and just brought in Phil Longo to run their offense. So, but to circle back, I mean, yeah, I'm not banging on Graham Mertz. He's fine, but like Kentucky gets Devin Leary. Like that's a guy that already proved 2 years ago that can be like an elite quarterback. South Carolina gets Spencer Rattler 2 years ago. You look at the transfer quarterbacks in this league, and Florida landed on Graham Mertz. So there's a lot of people going, okay, Billy, you were brought in. Number one, recruiting has got to be better. And he's already, JC, I don't know where they rank. Top 5 for the next year's class. Is that about right?
Yeah, they're up.
Top 10.
Right. They're number 3 right now, actually.
Okay, so top 5. So, I mean, so that'll get everybody excited about the future. But in terms of what they've brought in right now, and maybe you say, well, that's why they hired Billy Napier too, because he's a winner. Look what he did at Louisiana. This ain't the Sun Belt, and last year they went 6-7 with disappointing losses to teams like Vanderbilt. If they don't pull the rabbit out of the hat against Utah, and Cam Rising doesn't throw that late pick, you're talking about a 5-8 campaign.
5-7. They wouldn't be in a bowl.
Mm-hmm.
But
I mean, they wouldn't be in a bowl. Yeah, you're exactly right. Yeah,
but
they got blown out in their bowl game.
You've also got an optics issue for Florida, and with 2 teams in particular, because of what's happened the last couple of years, Tennessee and Kentucky, because they have not lost back-to-back games against Tennessee since the Zook era, and they've not lost. If they lose to Kentucky, that would be 3 in a row. You realize that, right? That's not. Regardless of if they go to Utah and win at Utah, they don't care. At Florida, they'll care to a point, but it doesn't matter if you get beat for the 3rd straight year by Kentucky, another program I know had, the Gamecocks. Kentucky has quietly come out of the woodworks and stationed themselves as a contender, at least in a above average good program in the SEC East. It's not a bottom feeder anymore. Let's put it that way. So, I mean, you've got that. I don't think Vanderbilt will beat them twice or beat them again. But if you do, you're talking about 2 straight years of Vanderbilt.
If you you pack the suitcase.
That's what I'm saying,
you
Mike.
Get out of town. That's you cannot do that.
I agree. We've talked to enough head coaches. All of us collectively have over the years. I have regardless of what fans want to think or say and what mud they want to throw at the wall about how much money these guys make and this, that, and the other. No, I do understand it because I've got children too. Like, these are human beings. I hate talking about coaches getting fired going into this. Well, if he does this, they're going to fire him, get rid of his ass, yada, yada, yada. I hate those conversations. And I agree when they push back on people going, we have lives, that's enough of it. At the same time, just talking about this situation specifically for Billy Napier here, Mike, I'm bringing Vanderbilt into the fold now. I didn't even think about it when I started the conversation or the monologue. You have 3 teams that you will have losing streaks against: Vanderbilt, Kentucky, and Tennessee. If you get beat by all of them this year, don't care what else happens. They ain't going to put up with that.
Well, no. I mean, they're still trying to calibrate. How did we lose dominance against Georgia? Like, how did that happen? Right. How did Florida go from being the predominant program in the Eastern Division, and they're looking at Georgia, and they're not even in the same class as Georgia? I mean, I'm not sure anybody is in the East, but we'll see what Tennessee does this year. I think this is a real swing year for Tennessee, one way or another. It's either going to go north or it's going to go south. And if it goes south, maybe you look at that little blip as like a nice story, but Tennessee could be humbled a bit. They're not going to the bottom of the division. Of course, we're not going to have divisions, but they'll be back in that middle, and that's where they could find themselves this year. I mean, I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that Tennessee finishes second in the East. The only thing I'm confident of this year in the league is that Georgia wins the East. I think Alabama or LSU win the West. I think who finishes. We had Phil Steele on today on JC and Morgan. I asked him specifically, who do you think finishes last in the West? And it was like, it's kind of pulling teeth. You hate to do it, but it's like Mississippi State, and they're not awful.
They're good, yeah.
They're actually pretty good, but that's how loaded that division is. Mississippi State would do some damage in the East. But I feel confident Vanderbilt's going to finish last in the East. Georgia's going to finish first, and there'll be Alabama or LSU in the West. And other than that, I don't think any of us have any idea, if we're being completely honest about it. I think there's a whole lot of swing games and swing teams, or as you put it, wild card teams. That's just where I am in this league, top to bottom.
All right, let's step aside real quick. When we return, Mike, we played a little game yesterday called Agree or Disagree. It's not a question game. It's a statement game. You either agree with the comment or you disagree with the comment. Okay. I have 3 of those for you.
I can handle this.
Surprise, surprise. And JC and Mad Dog, they'll tell you how wrong you are.
I probably look forward to that.
Mad Dog's pretty good. You know, he's pretty good at disagree or disagree.
I'm told I'm wrong all the time. It's all good.
Yeah, me too. I'm married. I haven't been right in 6 years.
That's right. That's right.
About anything.
Any married guy out there knows what it's like to be told you're wrong.
You know, I really think y'all should do this on the show. No, we can't do that because of this. Well, that's ridiculous. Okay. The next time you go into someone's house to help them as their doctor, I'm going to tell you what type of medical care they deserve.
I guess I'm the only one here that's not technically married.
Yeah, you might as well be.
You might as well be.
Yeah. No doubt.
Yeah, you're living the life of a married man.
I haven't been right in a few years. Just to back y'all up.
Yeah, never will.
Never again.
What's Clark say in the Christmas Vacation? Oh, it's over. She's history. We're finished.
Can't see the tan lines, can you, Russ?
Maybe I just. She's history. She passed away.
We're finished. We're finished. Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, she's not dead. She just fell off a cliff and died on it.
I think
the original is still. That's a Ben Franklin.
I think I'm definitely.
It's the best.
I think I'm gonna get me a metal detector and start walking up and down the beach and collecting stupid stuff now. Because my life's over. Thanks for reminding me.
Cocky talk. No, you're not the only one, man. There's about 7,000 others who are listening to this program today who are in agreement with us right now.
A support group here on the Power.
That's right. All right, anyway. Let's hit a timeout. Agree or disagree? Mike Morgan version up next.
Hey, everybody. This is Mo Copper from Carolina Football. The show is painted garnet black every day by a couple of painters. Go to letmepaintsomething.com to check them out. Go Cox.
10% off for military repeat customers or mention the show. Interior, exterior painting, fencing, cabinet staining, concrete painting, popcorn ceiling removal, and more. 803-522-6832. Letmepaintsomething.com.
If you're in the upstate of South Carolina and are in need of residential real estate services, Cindy Bass Searfoss of Caldwell Banker Kane is for you. Ask her about the Village at Creekside, all of her listings in my hometown of Spartanburg, South Carolina, right there on Daniel Morgan Avenue, married to a lifelong Gamecock fan. And many of our listeners have already bought homes from her and been 100% satisfied with the detail and care she uses. Cindy Searfoss, 864-414-5271, Caldwell Banker Kane in the upstate for your real estate needs.
Building your dream home is often just that, a dream, and sometimes a nightmare. But at the Barn Dough Company, they commit to quality and build without sacrifice. Customization, open floor plans, limitless flooring options, maintenance-free and easy installation perks, and affordability are just a few reasons why they've been named one of the best builders in the U.S. Believe in your dreams. Visit thebarndominiumco.com. That's thebarndominiumco.com. The Barn Dough Company. Gamecock owned, Gamecock operated. The preferred sign partner of Gamecock Athletics is Signorama Columbia, and they should be yours too. A full-service sign company that handles design, production, install, and service, Signorama Columbia has helped to bring to life the perfect vision for so many all across South Carolina. Owned and operated by proud Gamecock alumni, they can handle all types of signage, including interior and exterior, vehicle graphics, and more. Go to Signorama.com and find the West Columbia location or call them at 803-407-9284. Bring your brand to life with Signorama Columbia, and go Gamecocks.
Everybody, welcome back. Before we dive into whether or not we agree or disagree with Mike, I think there's one thing we can all agree on, Mike, is that if you are of an age to need some Medicare help, you need to be calling Palmetto Medicare.
Oh, see, that's why the Mad Dog is a true pro. That's exactly right, Phil. Brian Spencer. Ryan Spencer, the lad that some of you see in the upper left-hand corner of your screen with the phone number, 803-960-9484, the website, palmetto-medicare.com. If you're soon to be turning 65, or maybe you know somebody in that particular spot, or if you're already on Medicare but losing coverage through your job or maybe your spouse's job, what have you, no matter what the scenario is, you need somebody you can trust to make sure you maximize your benefits. Brian Spencer will help you through the process. One simple phone call, 803-960-9484. Cover as much Medicare costs as humanly possible. He'll discuss the best plan for you and your family. That's Palmetto Medicare, palmetto-medicare.com. Tell him you heard about it here on Inside the Gamecock Show, 803-960-9484, a phone call that can save you money and provide some more smiles for you and your family.
Hale McGranahan has a full practice report up on thebigspur.com, and we will certainly get into some of that tomorrow, but you feel free to head over to thebigspur.com at the conclusion of our program, or you can also read it while you're watching our program. It's called multitasking. All right, Mike. Okay, agree or disagree? These are all SEC questions, and they are all SEC East questions. So next week we'll do a version of this from the SEC West with you. How about that? It's a fun game. I really like it. There's a prize at the end of it. And
good. Do I need to roll the dice, spin a wheel?
Yeah. I don't really know what the prize is yet, but we'll come up with something.
Okay.
All right. Vanderbilt will win 2 or more SEC games. Agree or disagree?
Agree. I'll give them 2 and only 2. I do like Clark Lee. I do like their quarterback situation. I like Swan. Where Vanderbilt always runs into trouble is on the line of scrimmage, as we all know, but there's always going to be a game or two during the year where you neutralize that disadvantage and other areas play well. They clearly gained some confidence last year. So I'll go with 2 SEC wins for Vandy.
Let's see. Who are they going to beat, Mike? Are you giving them a road win and a home win and a road win?
You want to pop up the schedule? I don't have that. I didn't come equipped with a Vanderbilt schedule today.
No. I'll give you the. Also, they're
not one prepared either.
Phil and I did our bold predictions the other day, and I gave them a really bold one. I said Vandy would start 4-0, but that's because their first 4 games are non-conference, and I'm going to take them to go into Winston-Salem and beat those dadgum Demon Deacons without Sam Hartman. Go Vandy! But then after that, the problem is they've got to win, or they have. Well, they'd like that. They have 8 consecutive conference games, leading off with a pair at home, Kentucky and Missouri back to back. It's a very manageable schedule. If honestly,
Missouri.
Hey, look,
yeah,
they could start 7-0.
Well,
and game day would be in Nashville for Georgia at
Scorching hot take.
The third October is 14th.
And to JC's point, that seventh game is at Florida. So,
yeah, it's because Kentucky, they beat Kentucky last year. They're not going to be afraid of them. Kentucky historically has just kind of been mediocre against Vandy. Same with Missouri when they have to come to Nashville. Florida, they're not afraid of Florida either, and Florida may be completely off the rails by that point. And then October 14th, game day be in Nashville, Tennessee for the 10th ranked Commodores.
Are you calling your
against,
shot
the
on that? You're calling your shot there, Clark Lee?
No, that's a Disney. That's a script for a Disney movie.
Oh, well, Phil, call your brother and let him know that JC was just kidding.
That's right. Yeah, well, he's
your
brother got all pumped up watching that, hearing that right now. It's like, hold on, that's not real.
Partly adopt a homeless 5-star prospect whose parent was a crack addict. And,
I don't know. They don't have to tell us.
They got Sandy Bullock looking smoking hot.
Conservatorship, Mike.
We actually talked about Britney Spears and Sandra Bullock in that movie, like within 15 minutes on JC.
That's right. We did.
Two very gorgeous visions there.
I think Britney Spears is getting divorced again.
Of course she is.
Yeah, well,
she's a
can't
lunatic. She's a freaking lunatic.
She seems so stable.
Yeah.
Mike, all right, let's hear. Let's give them.
No, Brittany, that's the toaster oven. Get your hands out.
Well,
sorry, go ahead.
Let's give them. They're going to get one of the homes against Kentucky or Missouri, so let's give them. Let's give them. That Missouri game, by the way, is going to be really boring. I think Vandy will play well. Yeah. Vandy's going to play well on defense. Missouri, neither one of them can score. It's going to be an old school kind of crappy SEC game.
There's another. Now you're just saying Missouri, Kentucky. There's another winnable game on there somewhere. Again, I'm thinking one of that group and one later. They're going to go to. They'll go to Ole Miss and stun Lane Kiffin. How about that?
They have Auburn at home in Nashville.
Yeah.
I think Auburn's going to be improved. Vandy can still match up with them. They play at Carolina.
There's going to be 25,000 Auburn fans, Joe. There will be a lot of Kentucky fans there, too.
Man, their stadium's getting redone, though, JB, and their stadium's only going to seat 28,000 this entire season.
That's fewer road fans. That's fewer road fans to occupy the seats.
No, it
isn't.
That's
typically what happens.
It's more road fans.
There'll be at least 45, 50 people.
It's fewer home fans, Mike.
Depends how you look at it, I guess.
Hey, Mike and I were talking earlier about this whole notion of a super league and all that good stuff. I'll say this: we need Vanderbilt. Everybody in the SEC needs Vandy.
Heck yeah.
I was just sitting there pointing out some of these programs that think their poop doesn't stink and that, oh my God, we can't lose. We can't win less than 8 games a year or whatever. If they get in a league with other schools that are just like that and they don't play anybody else, hell, they could go through 100 years of losing.
Hey,
just like the pros, just like the Cleveland Browns. They could become the Cleveland Browns.
No.
Vanderbilt is an interesting case. And, Mike, you've called Vanderbilt football, baseball, and basketball games throughout your career. Vanderbilt football seems to be a feel-good story, and everybody hates Vanderbilt baseball and basketball. Like, nobody wants to play in that gym. Everybody hates Vanderbilt baseball and the Bush League crap they've done for years, back to when you were calling games for the Gamecock baseball program, and they would spike the ball at home plate when they struck you out.
I called their regional this year. They weren't celebrating much when they lost to Oregon and Xavier to get bounced from as a top 8 national seed. But yeah,
you get my point, right? Like, we sit here and talk about Vandy football. And we're like, come on, Vandy, you can win a couple of games. Just don't beat our program, of course. But on the baseball side, lose everyone. I hate them.
The point that JC's making that we were talking about is that as we continue to go to like the NFC AFC model, and I think fans in your respective conference like to give the old flex, like, look at us, we just won another natty, look at us, look at how powerful we are. At some point, it's going to compute that while that's happening and you can brag about your conference, it also means you might move another rung or two down the ladder. And when you eliminate those divisions, like an 8-win season, who wouldn't be happy about that, right? 8-win season's pretty damn good. They don't come along every year. An 8-win season could give you second place in the Eastern Division, but when they scrap the divisions and they add 2 more powerful programs, an 8-win season, you could be 10th place in your league. Has a different vibe about it, doesn't it?
Yeah, I would. Oh, very different vibe. Yeah, you finish 3rd in the East versus 8th or 9th overall. Because whatever. Oh God, this is again depressing. All right, Mike. Speaking of depressing, we just talked about the Gators. Agree or disagree? Florida will be in a bowl game.
I think it's 60-40 yes, so I'll say yes, but I mean by the skin of their teeth, probably around that 6-6 mark again, and just get into a bowl game that most Florida fans won't care about and won't celebrate if you win it, but will be pretty unsettled if you lose it, like you did last year, getting throttled in the Vegas Bowl? And we talk about that, JC.
Oregon State.
They didn't even show up.
No, well, I mean that's the other thing. Yeah, that's they've had a bunch of that. I can't remember the last time Florida did have a lot of players show up for a bowl game. But no, I would say yes. They get into a bowl.
Beavers, baby.
Yeah, the Beavers. Nice Beavers. Thank you.
Nice beaver, JC. Thank you.
Naked Gun for anybody that hasn't seen that movie.
Good one.
I'll say yes. Simple.
Hey,
simple
is
answer.
Florida are the Gators the 4th best team in the state of Florida? Just out of curiosity.
I don't know. I think they could look. I think you put Florida in the hat with UCF and Miami, and I don't know if there's much separation between the 3 right now. Yeah. But that's going to change. I mean, seriously, like that's going to. Florida is going to. They're going to recruit under Billy. I don't think there's any doubt about that. They're going to get more talent, and you would think they're going to win more games.
You would think.
So they're going to be in a different level than UCF is. Miami, I don't know. I mean, Miami should have been good last year, and they were a disaster. So
there's something wrong down there.
What really chews up Florida fans more than anything is neither one of those programs. It's Florida State. It's watching.
Sure.
It's kind of like, Carolina beats Clemson 5 years in a row, and they get this guy that a lot of people were calling a coupon coach and Dabo Sweeney, and it's like Clemson's just Clemson, and then all of a sudden, all these 5-star kids start popping up, and Deshaun Watson is a generational quarterback for the program, and before you know it, the tables have been completely flipped. And now, of course, Carolina's closing the gap again, and they just beat Clemson in Death Valley, and so it looks like that little streak is over, and maybe it goes back to the way it was when Spurrier was doing it. But think about it in Florida terms. They had the upper hand on Florida State. Florida State was becoming a dumpster fire, latter part of Bobby Bowden, latter part of Jimbo Fisher, Willie Taggart, one of the worst hires of a major program in our lifetime. And then Norvell got off to a bumpy start too. And meanwhile, Florida's like, well, at least we're better than Florida State. Well, that could be changing. Norvell has found the magic. They have the quarterback situation completely settled. They're getting guys like Jared Verse to come back for another year when he could have been a high draft pick. And Florida State's going to be good this year. They're going to be better than Florida. They'll likely beat Florida again. So, yeah, that's the one that they don't think much about Miami, honestly, in Gainesville. And they don't think about UCF at all. They worry about the school that's 2 hours, sound familiar? 2 hours away from Gainesville, that they've had classic showdowns in the past. And it wasn't that long ago where every time Florida and Florida State met, they were both in the top 10. And lately, they've been completely irrelevant, both of them.
Top 100, that's for sure. All right, final one, Mike, and we're going to get out of here on time today so we can all grab a Coke and a smile.
We are? Okay.
Yeah, because I've got to run anyways, and Mad Dog Mad Dog's done. All right, a team in the SEC not named Georgia will be ranked number 1 at some point in the regular season. Agree or disagree?
These are good questions, Jamie. I gotta hand it to you.
Thank you.
So I'm really high on LSU. So I want to say LSU, but it's not just me being high on LSU. I have to say that Georgia's going to lose. The only way this happens is if Georgia loses at Tennessee, and then the winner of LSU Bama becomes number 1 in the country. That's the only scenario that any of this happens. So,
yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Well, you give me another one.
No, I mean, obviously, if Georgia loses to anybody, there's a chance it could happen. But you also have to have whoever it would be in the SEC at this point. In my opinion, I agree with you. Either LSU or Alabama, they have to have the resume to get there.
Right.
And
are they going to leapfrog Michigan, for example?
Right. Yeah, I don't know.
Because Michigan's not losing to anybody for a while.
They could lose the opener to East Carolina.
Yeah. with
the toughest game they play in 5 years.
Everybody laughed at App State.
Yeah, that's the toughest game.
ECU is literally the toughest team they play.
Well, they don't have Jim Harbaugh for the first few weeks. That's going to be
they reversed that.
No.
Oh, hold on.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Or did they reverse it again?
Once again, got dunked on.
Yeah.
The most feeble Barney Fife organization as we know it now. They couldn't even uphold a suspension for a guy that was violating rules under COVID.
Yeah, that's right.
Just goes to show you where we are right now in college football with the NCAA. Tennessee 10 years ago would have been hammered based on everything that came out. You know what they got? I mean, not bupkis. It's something, but they're still going to bowl games. There's nothing even resembling the death penalty or anything like that. So, but I don't see Georgia. The only game in the regular season that I see Georgia struggling. Well, I shouldn't say struggling with. They struggled against Missouri. You're going to struggle even as a great team against somebody you shouldn't. Mm-hmm. But I don't think they lose to anybody. A really good chance of losing, except for at Tennessee, maybe. If Joe Milton is half as good as people think he's going to be, and I'm not sold on that yet. If the offense is able to overcome losing 2 wide receivers to the NFL, offensive linemen to the NFL, if they're good enough to overcome all of that, maybe, then they have a magical night in Knoxville. I haven't even checked the schedule. Do we think what other game is going on? Is that a guaranteed 3:30, or could they actually get that at night? They'd rather have it at night.
You talking about in Knoxville?
Yeah. What weekend is that?
The second to last weekend of the year.
Yeah, it's like late.
Well, I understand that, but who else is? So like Alabama, LSU's before that, right?
Yeah, there's not a lot of big time SEC.
Okay, so that's going to be 3:30. So that's a guaranteed 3:30. I'm calling that shot right now.
Oh, guaranteed, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, well, maybe it could potentially. Potentially New Mexico State at Auburn, potentially.
Yeah, of course. When those two teams meet, you can throw out the records. Now, I
love the
I'll take Georgia in your bet.
Oh, so you disagree? Yeah. You disagree? That's what you're saying.
All right, so here's the schedule for that year. For that week, Florida plays Missouri, South Carolina plays Kentucky.
That's it. It's going to be Georgia at Tennessee.
Georgia, Tennessee. That's there's no other SEC. Abilene Christian at A&M. That's intriguing.
How about that could be.
Wake Forest at Notre Dame that weekend too. North Carolina at Clemson. It's not a bad weekend. Not a bad weekend overall. That used to be SoCon Sunday in the SEC, or SoCon Saturday in the SEC.
Could be a couple of weeks with Georgia on. You got Ole Miss at Georgia the week before. I don't know. Hey, I'm not going to fast forward to November. Are you kidding me? I just can't wait till September. This is ridiculous. Yeah. All right, Jamie says you're wrong, Mike. Carolina starts 5-0. If they start 5-0, that means they would go to Athens in week 3 and win. So if that happens, this place will be nuts.
If that happens, then we're going to have a much more exciting year in Columbia, in the SEC, in the country. Everything will be a lot more exciting if Georgia loses that game. If they don't, they're rolling people. They're rolling a lot of people in the league this year.
They got to go at Auburn. But, man, they've dominated them.
Yeah.
That used to be one of the closest series in the country. But
it used to be the road team would win every year.
Yeah, Georgia under Rick started just whipping their butt, and they get their butt whipped.
They reversed all that. So, yes, I can't say I'm shocked that somebody on the show would say that. That's happened. Not out of the realm of possibility. I think it's a better chance this year than last year. all the things that people said about Stetson Bennett, dude was pretty clutch. We've got to find out if their quarterback this year is clutch. We know he's more athletically gifted, but what if it's a fourth quarter game? If it's a fourth quarter game, that's where Stetson was at his best. I don't know if that's going to be the case this year.
I'll take Jamie's comment to the next level here. If South Carolina magically opens up 5-0, they'll magically open up 6-0 because the game after Tennessee, well, they have a week off and then they welcome Florida to town. It would be very
that's a dub.
It'd be very Carolina-listic
to start 5-0.
Characteristic of
Be
Carolina
ranked third and lose to Florida.
To open 6-0 and then go to friggin' Missouri and get beat.
You know, the thing is, if the Georgia game was actually at Williams-Brice, I don't think that would be that far-fetched. But it's in Athens. It's between the hedges. Like there ain't going to be a whole lot of people predicting that. But that's what would make it a genius prediction if it happens.
I will say this: of Carolina's 4 road games this year, Georgia, Tennessee, Missouri, and A&M, they will not go 0-4.
That's brutal. That is brutal, though.
Yeah,
I mean, that's really, really brutal. What is? Who did they piss off at the scheduling office in Birmingham? It seems like every year, this is a thing where it's either the toughest schedule in the country or like the third toughest.
Well, I mean, whoever they pissed
next year,
I was about to say whoever they pissed off really didn't care because they did it again. They got to go to Bama, Oklahoma, Kentucky next year.
Well, again, as they keep adding,
the SEC, man,
it's the SEC. But to James's point, the bigger game for me, if I'm looking at what's going to define this season,
Missouri.
Good, bad, and different, it's Missouri.
Yeah.
It's Missouri. It's Kentucky. It's Florida.
North Carolina.
No one's gonna sweat it if you lose to the number 1 team and 2-time defending national champions on the road. Like you're not gonna hang your head in shame if that happens. But it's those swing games that will determine how this season is looked at.
They got a lot of them. There's no doubt.
Yep.
All right. Thanks to Chris, Perry, and the masterful Mike Morgan in Power Hour.
Enjoyed it, guys.
Well done this morning with what's the guy's
J.C.
name?
Morgan.
No, the other guy with the magazine, Phil Steele.
Steele.
What's the guy's
guy
name
with the magazine? Are you not still reading Lindy's? Are you? You're looking at like the barbecue tips and pictures of the Vanderbilt cheerleaders.
Hey, do y'all want to go in on a major money making operation? Little side gig.
I thought that's what this was.
Well, as part of this, can we find a way to bring back Leonard's Losers?
Oh gosh, his son tried it for a while. His son tried it.
Yeah, but he wasn't as good. It was the greatest Saturday college football tradition on the planet when it was in its prime. It was awesome.
Phil, you have people up in mountains of Western North Carolina. They have to know some banjo players.
Oh, I'm sure we can come up with somebody.
Get me out of here, Percy. I can do the voice. Let's just Leonard post hostess. Leonard's Losers.
Post hostess.
North Carolina.
I think now in the betting age of today, it had to be Leonard's covers. Everybody you pick covers the spread because nobody just bets straight up on the money line. Like everybody now. Remember back then you could not put the point spread on game day. You had to Lee Corso had to be cute about it. Well, I think they win by a touchdown and a 2-point conversion, i.e. they're going to cover the 7.5. Now you just put 7.5 and you plaster it all over and you get 5 guys wearing a suit and tie going, I think they cover. They lose, but they cover. We've just accepted gambling unless you're on the team and you bet against your squad. Yeah. Not a good thing for
sucks.
Iowa and Iowa State players. That's
you can't do
that's
that.
Still a no. Can't do that. But yeah, it would have to be Leonard's covers, and I think there's a market for that.
All right. I'm going to stick with Leonard's Losers. But I hear you. You're not wrong. All right. Let's take a nap. We'll see you tomorrow on Inside the Gamecocks, the show.